veteran PR strategist, Emmy award-winning producer and publisher of Speakers Magazine, who will show you how to crack the code in getting out there to get known. Each week, she either interviews her media friends, PR colleagues, or she just goes solo, offering you strategies on publicity, publishing, and platform building. So listen up to hear how to get booked on media places and on superstar stages. Now, here's your host, Pam Perry.
Hey, welcome everyone to the Get Out There podcast. I am excited today because I have Amy S. Hilliard on the podcast today, and I've been trying to get her on here for a while. One of my favorite people I first thought of right away. So before I read the formal bio, I'll tell you how I know of Amy. She's a native of Detroit, so she grew up in Detroit, but she has a phenomenal family. I went to school with her baby sister, who was phenomenal as well, little Wendy, who was always a cheerleader, and she cheered herself to the point where she knew gymnastics and she went to the Olympics. Okay, that's one little sister. Then there's another sister that I was connected with as well, which is Gloria Mayfield Banks. And I was in Mary Kay, and I didn't even really want to do Mary Kay, but Gloria was just such a convincing person. You just want to be around her. And I was doing it when I was pregnant. Okay. That was like 25 years ago. And I was like, I love this lady. I think I'll join this. And Gloria was her sister, and she's like the top national sales director for Mary Kay. Then there's another sister that is still in Detroit, who's a writer, who is like, her name is Pam. So I love Pam too. So we run into each other a lot of times at social media conferences, and she's a podcaster and she's a writer and that sort of thing. And then there's Amy, right? So all these four hero girls. So Amy used to work in advertising. She worked at Burrell Advertising. She has a business called ComfortCake. She, did phenomenal things with that. But more than that, Amy has always been the type of person that's very approachable. You could talk to. I consider her my mentor from afar because she has done the thing. She is sizzlingafter60.com for real, right? So she is, I'm going to put this website up real here for those that are watching us streaming, but that is her website right there, Sizzling After 60. And she is doing that. Yes, that's her right there. That's right. Doing the upside down thing there and the biking and all of that. So she is one of courage, resilience, reinvention, faith. And I just love how she is a reinvention strategist. So let me read you the formal bio. Okay. So you all know why I'm so excited. She is an award-winning serial entrepreneur and a former senior corporate executive, a native of Detroit, like I said. And she is an honors graduate of both Howard and Harvard Business School. She's a certified digital marketing by Columbia University. The Hilliard Group, which is her company, strategic marketing consulting for over 20 years, has worked with clients including Nielsen, if you don't know about Nielsen, the ratings company, IBM, Pandora Jewelry, BET Networks, American Express, HBO, The Gap, PepsiCo, and others, right? So this is just the beginning. And it says in 2001, she did the ComfortCake, which I loved. And I'm so glad that I had a chance to really get in that when you were first starting it. It's the pound cake, so good it feels like a hug. Okay. And then at that point where she had national distribution, United Airlines, Walmart, McDonald's to the test market, Home Shopping Network, all these other kind of things because of her own pound cake recipes. That was her. She now licenses ComfortCake's intellectual property and sugarless sweetness, a patent pending sugar substitute. So she's just creative. But recently, she was the president of Fashion Fair Cosmetics. Now, remember, I told you about her sister, Gloria. So that had to be some interesting Thanksgiving conversations, right? It was. Her sister's in Mary Kay, and she's the president of Fashion Fair. So which really, is like the global cosmetics company for women of color. She's a former retail and senior marketing advertising executive with Bloomingdale's, Gillette, Pillsbury, Burrell, L'Oreal, and really her marketing innovations to build Gillette's White Rain brand into $100 million business, where documented in a case study at University of Virginia's Darden School of Business. And I was explaining to someone today, they don't remember White Rain, and this person was a Gen Xer, I think, or maybe a millennial. And I said, I'm interviewing Amy here today. She was responsible for White Rain. She says, what? What? I was like, okay, so this may be before your time. I said, but
Right.
that was a big deal for a
Mhm.
woman of color to be over a brand, that did $100 million in business. She's a guest lecturer at a lot of business schools, but she's also been featured in Fortune, Success, Entrepreneur, CNN, Black Enterprise, Essence Ebony, and NPR. I can go on, but one of the things that I told Amy that I really, really love, and I said, well, I got to have you on. I'm going to talk about your book. And she was like, this was the book right here. This one I loved. It's called Tap Into Your Juice, Find Your Gifts, Lose Your Fears, and Build Your Dreams. She said, yeah, but I'm working on another one. I said, well, this one is so good. She says, no, the other one's going to be better. So let me tell you about this one. She's out of Chicago, where she is, but she is a reinvention specialist. And this book here, Tap Into Your Juice, the one I was telling her, was endorsed by First Lady Michelle Obama. And she has a new book that is coming up. We're going to have her back we'll talk a little bit about it today to give you a tease, is Pivot for Success. Hone your vision, shift your energy, and make your move. Will be out in the spring. And it's by Wiley. And then, of course, I was showing you all about the Sizzling After 60, thriving at every stage of your life. And one of the things, too, that you can contact her by going to amyshilliard.com for more information. So I didn't read all of the bio, but some of the things too, where you're on like PepsiCo's Multicultural Advisory Board and, a trustee at Howard, and you're a mom and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to say welcome, 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 Amy. I am so glad to have you. And I'm going to go over here and welcome the LinkedIn crew over here, because I love always saying hi to my LinkedIn crew over here. But thank you so much for joining us today, because it's been a while.
Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you for having me. This is a long time coming, but like as you said, we've known each other for a while. You know my whole family, and I'm so proud of you. Your business is just blowing up, girl.
Oh,
You're doing
thank
a wonderful
you.
thing with your business, and it's so important to support each other and just give you all the props, because you're helping us to do what we do, and what you do is magnificent, because we've got to get the word out, and you know how to do that, and you've helped so many people.
That is it. Thank you so much. But you inspire me. And the reason why Dr. Cynthia is on, Dr. Cynthia Hickman, she's in my Ready, Set, Go Speak program. And for you to be over 60, sizzling after 60. I turned 60, all the 1960 babies were turning 60 like last year. So you really kind of set the stage or the roadmap for us to follow in terms of what it looks like over 60. Because it seemed like when we were younger, 60 was like, oh, you ready to retire, you go sit down. But no, you're doing all kind of new things, reinventing. I saw you and Gloria doing a podcast not too long ago. You'll go into writing a new book, doing the blog. We see you on IG. You're not going to be left behind. So one of the things that Sizzling After 60 and making the pivot for success is that you keep reinventing yourself. So give us I guess you would say, your juice of what it is that keeps you going or keeps you motivated to, you could have really sat down and says, hey, I'm good. I was president of this. I went to Howard, I went to Harvard. I'm doing this and I'm good. I'm going to just go sit down. But what keeps you going? What is the juice? What is that juice that keeps Amy going?
The mindset. It is a mindset, because getting older is inevitable, but age is getting the right mindset, because the right age is just a mindset. How you age is a mindset. And I just believe that, as long as you concentrate on how you age, that's going to be the key. The juice is making your mind up that I'm not getting old. I am aging gracefully. I'm aging healthfully. I am aging like fine wine.
Yes, that's it.
I'm aging like fine wine. And it's like, why not? Because if you keep your health as a priority and you really concentrate on doing that, that is how you can make sure that you can use all the years of your life very, very well. I'm also a writer for Blackdoctororg.
Oh, okay.
I write for them.
I love them. I love them.
I use my 60 Sizzling After 60 articles for them, and it's been great, because it really helps to write about how you can stay healthy, what's important for you to stay healthy. And that means after 60, if you're making sure that you are getting the right exercise, you're eating right, you're sleeping right, hey, age ain't nothing but a number.
That's it. That is it. That is so true. I love that you're writing for Blackdoctor.org. I want to say that the owner is out of Chicago.
Yes, Reggie Ware.
Yes.
We go back
Chicago. Detroit and Chicago folks are like cousins. You know that, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Everything. So has everything in your life, I mean, you call yourself a serial entrepreneur. So everything in your life has kind of built on each other. So at this point, your new book, Pivot for Success, and you're making another pivot. So honing your vision. So what will people get out of the book about honing your vision, doing the pivot for success? It seemed like 2020 made everybody do some kind of pivot.
That is so true. And that's really why I wrote the book, because actually I have been writing the book for a long time. It's really based on the 10 pivot points that we're in Tap Into Your Juice. Things like finding your purpose, believing in possibilities, defining your priorities. And that book, that guidebook, was only 28 pages long. And so, people liked it was short, but when I would speak about it, I have all these stories, about what it meant to me. And so that's why I said, I would like to be able to write the full stories behind all those pivots, and then give people an easy 3-step strategic process to get them in the mindset of how do you make a pivot. So many people get stuck. They say, I've talked to people and I'm like, I want to do something different, but I don't know how. And so when you use the 3 steps of honing your vision, number 1, shifting your energy, and then you make your move. Because if you just sit there and say, okay, I want to do something, but I don't know how to do it. Well, what is your vision? When you get your vision together, and then when you go to the book, there are steps of the pivots under hone your vision, like finding your purpose, believing in possibilities, defining your priorities, and envisioning prosperity. That's under honing your vision. So once you got those down, then you're ready to shift your energy. Now, when you shift your energy, you got to get prepared. Okay. You've got to get prepared. You've got to then understand what, seeking positivity in your life. You've got to do certain things to shift your energy. Once you've shifted your energy, then you can make your moves. And then that's when you have to have your patience together. You've got to understand how you can maintain perseverance, manage your perceptions. So all that is in the book in terms of how you make those steps, but with the strategic process in mind, so that you have a framework to be able to make your pivot.
It's like you have the blueprint.
You got the blueprint.
That's what really, this one here, it was really short, but it had a lot of thinking that you had to do in the book. You had to do a lot of thinking in the book. So I bought several and I've given some away. But one of the main things that you would do with this is that you would give workshops with it and you would speak from it. Right. And so with the book coming out in 2021,
yes,
normally we would have a book launch and all that kind of stuff in bookstores, or you would have an event. So how is that going to look when the book is launched this year for Pivot for Success? Will you have like a virtual event where you would have a few people there, or how is it?
Yes, we are. I mean, people have already been approaching me about virtual events across the country. It's on pre-sale now on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
And Michelle Obama told me that I had her endorsement for life.
Oh, good.
Which is, I was just so honored, because the pivot is really based on the 10 pivots. And she said, you have those for life. And I was just thrilled. And Sheryl Sandberg just gave me an awesome endorsement for Pivot for Success, because she said it's a framework, just as you said, it's a blueprint. And I want people to have the blueprint. But importantly, when you read a bio like mine, people can look at that and they can look at me and say, oh, she's done it all. She's had all this good success and whatnot. They have no idea how that happened, the backstory. Okay. I tell the backstory.
Okay.
And that's what is important, because people look at my experience, they look at my degrees, and they say, oh, well, yeah, she has all that, and no wonder she's had all that success. But they do not know how hard it has been to make the pivots that I've made and still stand. But the reason I still stand is because I know how to keep it moving. And that, and I've lived with these pivots for 23 years. It's taken me 23 years to get all these stories out. For example, yes. For example, when you have to go through what it takes to start, for example, the ComfortCake Company. I went to banks after I've had 20, 30 years in brand management, starting a $100 million business, et cetera. I go to banks with my business plan for ComfortCake.
And you went to Harvard. So
and I went to Harvard. I graduated with honors from Harvard Business School.
Right.
I go to the banks and say, I'm ready to start my pound cake company. And they said, that's a cute idea. Come back when you have some customers. I could not get a bank loan. Couldn't.
Wow.
Now, and I said, and I told my kids, I'm like, Mom wants to start this ComfortCake Company. And I did not want to regret going for that dream. Like you said, I could have sat back and said, okay, kids, I'll just get another big job. We'll go on with great vacations and everything else. But I did not want to sit back at 85 years old and say, why did I do that? I wish I had tried it. So I sold my home, our family home, to fund the ComfortCake Company.
You got a risk to win. And
you got a risk to win. And when you make the risk, and see, this is what I talk about in Pivot for Success, you have to know yourself and know how much risk tolerance that you have. I have a high risk tolerance. And I knew that, but I was not going to do it without the blessing of my kids. Right. But this is what, and I talk about faith. You mentioned faith on my blog. Faith is tantamount for me, because I had to make a decision to walk away from a huge 6-figure job that I had as the senior vice president of marketing for Soft Sheen, And so I'm on my porch on my big house, and I'm like, oh my God, because I had to go the next Monday and let them know my decision. And I'm like, God, what should I do? And I'm crying. This is springtime, and I'm, what should I do? And my neighbors are walking by, and they're like, what's wrong? What's wrong? I'm like, I'm good. But I'm crying. What should I do? And that was the first time that I heard specifically, clearly, and without a doubt, God told me to take his hand and do ComfortCake. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
And you know what? That was one of the first times when I won't say I was really proud of you, but I knew that it was a big risk. And I knew that, the branding was on point, the marketing, the advertising. I mean, it was because all the things you had in your past, it was like, if I could do it for White Rain, I could do it for ComfortCake, which was your own brand. And it was stellar. And I was so, and that was in 2001.
2001.
I had it really entrepreneurship, quote unquote, for the average Black person. They weren't really doing entrepreneurship things. Now it's the goal. Like now it's the thing. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do my own thing. I want to be an influencer. But in 2001, it was kind of like, you going to leave that good job to do what? And you have kids?
2, and I was single. I was a single mother, and that's what I told the banks when they said that's a cute idea. I said, I'm not trying to be cute. I have 2 kids to put through college. Excuse me.
Right. And they both come with price tags of like $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. If they want to go inside or outside, it's like
no. And and it was 2001, and we had the big contract with we got the United Airlines contract. They were our first customer.
Oh my goodness. And 9/11 hit.
Okay. And so we had to deal with that. The bakery that we finally got to make our product, they had a lot of airline business, and they went out of business overnight. They had all of our pans, all of our ingredients, everything. We had to get a U-Haul and haul out of there to get our stuff ahead of the bank.
Wow.
And that's the kind of stuff that's in the book that could not be in that little book.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Right.
What do you do as an entrepreneur when you've got that kind of devastating news on the phone? And if you don't hightail out there and get your stuff, the bank would have taken it
Closing it down.
and they would have closed us down too.
Wow. I
And
had
that didn't
no
happen.
idea. I had
That
no
didn't happen.
idea.
And nope, that didn't happen.
So where did you get the idea to do the blog Sizzling After 60? You were about to turn 60, or you had already turned 60 and people were kind of saying, hey, how do you keep so alive or, vibrant?
Well, a lot of it came from the inspiration of my mother, Gwen Hilliard.
Yes.
My mom, she passed in 2018. She was just such an inspiration to all of us and to so many people. She wore high heels and she died at 94. And I think she stopped wearing high heels when she was 90.
Whoa. Okay.
And so she never left the house without her earrings and some lipstick. So, she was sizzling a lot. And she used to come to visit me in the summers. And the summer I turned 60, she was visiting. And, and I just said, I want to sizzle like my mama. And I just said, you know what? Sizzling After 60 is what I'm going to continue to do, because I hope to be, and this is what really happened. When I turned 60, my mother was 90 and my daughter was 30.
Ooh,
and so when you look at that dynamic of, I remember what it was like when I was 30, and I can see my mother at 90. I'm like, oh, I want to continue to sizzle at least to 90. And I know what it's like to be 30. So I said, Sizzling After 60. That's what I want to do.
Yes. And that was the thing where you're blogging, and just show people this a little bit more, where you're blogging, you have beauty and appearance, relationships, finance, entrepreneurship, health and wellness obviously is really the main part of it, but you talk about your faith as well. And I love it. Now, this is somebody that, were you blogging before?
No, I had tried blogging a little bit. I had tried it on Entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurville was a name that I had used. I had thought about doing it under Tap Into Your Juice, but I'm really a health advocate, and I became one because of both my parents. My dad passed in 2009, and I was actually I was designated officially as a health advocate for my father and my mother, because I was the one who was dealing with the doctors, and my sisters were taking care of them in their homes and whatnot. But when we had to deal with the hospitals and the doctors, that was my role. And so I have no problem dealing with health issues. And so health is a really big thing for me. I've always worked out, and I learned that again from my mother. She was, walking 3 miles a day in her 50s and whatnot. And I was like, okay. And that's really, I saw the impact of that because my dad wasn't working out, and I saw what happened to his health. And so I really believe in health. And as long as you have your health, you have your wealth.
You do. You really do. That is
so and so I'm doing that not just for me. I'm doing it for other women, especially women in the African American community, because we need to be very cognizant. And if COVID has taught us nothing else, we need to really be aware of our health, because we have issues that COVID has just like lapped onto in terms of these other diabetes, heart disease. All of these things that, make a difference in terms of how sick we get. Not only COVID, but Alzheimer's and dementia. Diabetes is one of the things that leads to those illnesses. And so, I just want to be able to help spread the word that again, getting older is inevitable, but dementia and Alzheimer's are not.
Right. And you really do. My mother had dementia as well. And it is something that can be preventable by your health.
That's right.
The different nutrition that you take, the things that you eat, and, no fried foods and things like that, everything in moderation, but it is really key. And baby boomers, that's what we are. I'm a baby boomer. Baby boomers are a big, big market.
It's a huge market. It was in the Wall Street Journal just this week.
I saw that.
Did you see that article?
Yes.
And I'm like, it's about time, because so many marketers, when I was in Fortune 500 companies in marketing, marketing, they would not even pay attention to it. And that's the other reason why I did Sizzling After 60. I'm like, you all need to pay attention, because that market has disposable income up the yin yang, and people are always depicting it most of the time, in a way that I don't know a lot of people who are always tottering around. This market is vibrant, and people need to be depicting it the way that we are. A lot of us are. Now, certainly, age can, prevent you from moving like you used to and whatnot. I'm not being naive, but at the same time, let's talk about people who are still vibrant as well.
That is. And one of the things too, you were on Dr. Geneva. I introduced you to Dr. Geneva, and she is vibrant. She is a little bit older than you, but she was, I don't know if you can see this right here, but she was on a HAP ad and in a swimming suit. So this is like over 70, at this point. So it's not like, you got to go sit down, or you're doing the clap on, or I'm falling, I can't get up and all that. It's like she's out here doing a darn thing. And that's what I always want to tell people, in order to do anything though, whatever you're doing, whether you're doing your blog, you're promoting it on Instagram, your book, you're going to do a virtual tour, there's other projects that you have, you don't mind getting yourself out there, putting yourself out there, and really, putting the shine on the things that you're doing. And I like that. I guess it's fearlessness, it's the faith. But sometimes you says you don't make a move until you hear for sure. You hone your vision, you hear from God, and then you make your move. Because even though you may have all of the plans together, if if it's not for sure, and you were saying you were always I was really sure, because you had to be sure, because listen, when 9/11 hit, you could have been like, oh, I made the wrong decision. But it's like, nope, I just have to keep it moving.
That's right. And keep it moving is something that I truly, truly rely on. And faith is everything. I mean, and I think that people who understand that with faith, you can do anything. And it's very true. I pray before anything that I do. I prayed before going on with you. I said, God, just let me be your vessel so that I can share whatever I'm supposed to share, because of what he wants me to share.
That's how you flow.
I did that before any presentation that I made in corporate America. Before I made a presentation, I'm like saying the same thing, God, let me be your vessel. And so that gives you a sense of certainty about what you're doing. And to your point, when stuff happens, it's like, okay, that happened, but I know what I'm supposed to be doing. So therefore, I will pivot to find a way to get out of this situation. And I have been, all that good success, all that education and whatnot, I have been laid off, foreclosed on, and bankrupted. But you know what? I am still standing tall because I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And I have pivoted to a level of doing things differently that is still making things happen in ways that I never would have anticipated. Wow. Never would have anticipated. And I am totally like, what? This is what you wanted me to do? This is what's happening now? So I am like, okay.
It makes it fun. It makes it fun.
It does.
There have been certain things that I have done that the pivot or the reinvention or the rebrand of Pam were certain times, because you can tell that, okay, you knew you were on the right path, but maybe you just needed to take a little bit of a different turn in order to get to where you really needed to go. And it's only internal, by being connected internally about what's really going on. And so I remember I had the company Ministry Marketing Solutions, which is still the legal name of my company, but then I rebranded it to PamPerryPR.com. And PamPerryPR.com was a little bit different than ministry marketing because it had a different connotation, different tone. And Pam Perry PR, people knew that's what I did. And so PamPerryPR.com was the whole new brand. Rebranding that, new logo, it's expensive. It's when you rebrand, this is expensive. But I knew I had heard from God to say, hey, this is the next phase. Right. And I began blogging, and all of those things were under the personal brand. This is way before personal branding was really the thing. Right. It was just something that I just knew that's what I had to do. So when you are building, you have amyshilliard.com, that's your personal brand. So no matter what you're doing next or whatever, it's still under amyshilliard.com.
That's right.
That's your brand.
That's right. That is my brand. And so the Hilliard Group is under that. Pivot for Success is under that. And, I didn't want to have too many things going on because it is, as you said, it's expensive and it can be, something that you're trying to keep a lot of balls into the air. But one of the things the other things that I looked at in terms of where my life is now, I'm 68 years old. And I said, what I want to, at this stage of my life, I want to grind less and glide more.
Ooh, I love that.
Okay.
Now, Amy, that needs to be a t-shirt.
I'm going to make it a t-shirt.
There you go. Because I will be the first one wearing that. That is what I believe. Grind less and glide
more. Because I have done enough grinding over my lifetime to,
Ooh, you have to grind a lot in order to graduate as honors from Harvard. Okay.
Okay. So I've been grinding a lot.
It wasn't like you grew up with the silver spoon in your mouth.
Not at all.
Not
at all. I've been working a long time. I had a babysitting lock on my neighborhood when I was 10 years old. I had little cards that I made out of 3x5 cards and cutting them up and sending them out to my mother's friends. You know what? I'm serious. So yeah, I've been an entrepreneur from way, way back. I made rose water from my mother's rose garden and was selling them in little vials to my neighbors. And so, yeah, I've been grinding for a long time.
I love that. I hope that's in the book because people okay, good. Because when people need to understand, they can see clues from their childhood. And you had those clues from your childhood. These are the things that you did naturally. It was like, okay, this is what I do. Doesn't everybody do this?
That's right.
Just Amy did that because that was part of her purpose. That's what she did.
And this is important where people can, again, when you're looking for what's your next thing. And the thing about it is, though, is that you can look at your purpose from way back then, but you can also look at what you want to do now. What is working for you now? And that's when you look at honoring your passion, which is one of the P's, because your passion can be what you had growing up, or it can be what you like doing now. Or it can be what makes you mad now, what pisses you off now.
Right. So what you won't tolerate now.
Right. And
I always tell people when you get over 60, a certain thing. Well, when I was over 50, it's like, not doing that anymore. When I turned 60, it's like, not doing that anymore. It's certain things. It's like, I'm done with that piece.
Right.
That was in another phase. And now I'm here. But so I like the glide.
But you can also, if it makes you angry enough that you want to do something about it, then that can be what you pivot to as a new purpose.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? And so there's so much, and I talk about it in the book. My favorite cousin died in a car accident, and her father couldn't handle it. And she lived out in Los Angeles. And her mother called and said, Amy, you need to come out here and help me because her father just can't work. She can't handle it right now. I got on a plane, threw some clothes in a suitcase. And she picked me up from the airport. We went to the wig shop because she had beautiful long hair. And her mama wanted an open casket. I'm like, okay, Aunt Eileen. So then we went from the wig shop to the funeral home and went downstairs to the funeral home. So I'm combing the wig on her head while the mortician is putting her face back together.
Oh my God.
Okay. And I had an out-of-body experience because her name was Brett. And I'm saying, okay, Brett, it is time for you to get up from here. You need to get up from here. She wasn't getting up. And at that moment, Pam, I said, as long as I can look up, I can get up. Because this is not Brett's not getting up from here.
And that was your favorite cousin.
And that was my favorite cousin. When you touch death like that, it changes your life. Then these are the things that I can talk about in Pivot for Success, because when that happens to you, no matter what your age, if you're still here,
there's hope.
There's hope. You can look up, you can get up and keep it moving.
Yes, I love that. And you said something too that's interesting. You said whatever makes you angry is what you're probably called to either change or solve or just help in some kind of way. Right. So every time, and I think about this in my childhood or growing up in my career, whenever there was something that would make me angry, and it would always have something to do with race. I'm a child of the 60s. So, we always had these issues. But I remember always in the advertising field, and that's kind of like it was racist, still racist. I just saw not too long ago. But in the advertising field, there was always like the blacks were always at the lower part of the totem pole. So advertising, radio, and television, whether it was they're getting the advertising dollars, or whether treating the people who worked in the advertising agencies, or they would never move up. And it was always just musical chairs, because people would leave because they would get upset. And then unless you worked at a black ad agency, which was totally different, then you'd have to fight with the other white agencies to get the right. But so I started an organization called Blacks in Advertising, Radio, and Television, for us to band together and say, you know what, this is wrong, what you're doing. And we really went to the white television stations, radio stations, agencies, and say, hey, you need to give back. You need to really make sure that things are right. EEOC, we're putting pressure on that. Now, there was NABJ, but those were journalists. We're talking about people that in the dollar part, right? This is a part you need to give scholarships to people who go in the app. So anyway, so we did all that for about a decade. And I think you all had TAP at that point, because Lana was in that. And so you all had TAP, targeted advertising professionals, Lewis and all of that, and Ken Michael and all of that, and did target market news again, because it was like, listen, this market, we are a target market. We are not to be ignored.
That's right.
And then the other thing was Speakers Magazine. I was just always really upset that not enough Black speakers were getting the shine that they needed. So we have covers of Black speakers, people like Ed Gordon or Dr. Geneva, different people that I knew that were great speakers that weren't involved in the white organizations. They weren't giving them the shine. So I created our own. And every time I would just sit back and say, that's not right, it's when I would create something, because it was either I would join something or either I would create something. And so anger is not an emotion that we should just throw aside, but just realize it's trying to pivot you to do something about it.
Perfect example. Perfect examples. And these are things that people need to hone your vision about. Shift your energy and make your move.
And find the clues from your purpose.
That's right.
From early on, you were doing the little cards, right? Doing little cards, as a child, and Rosewater and those kind of things.
That's right.
The same thing. I think all of your family too, because I think about Wendy. She was always doing flips and all that kind of stuff. So she's got the foundation, the Wendy Hilliard Foundation, that's helping other people flips.
That's right.
doing all that kind of stuff. So yes, that's really it. So is there anything else? We're about 30 minutes. Didn't want to keep you too long, because I know that there is some people. I see some people over here. Dr. Cynthia. Dr. Cynthia is a caregiver advocate, and so she retired as a nurse and then became a caregiver advocate because she cared for her mother. She wrote a book, and that's sometimes things happen in her life and we don't realize that's part of my purpose. That's part of what I need to do now. So she really helps people who are caregiving for their parents as a nurse, retired as a nurse, but also as a healthcare advocate, and really showing people different things that they need to do. And it's just, things roll along. You think like, oh my goodness, this happened, but they roll along and it's used as a purpose. So what advice, I guess you would say, that people are going to really, I guess, get from your book, or things that you really want to share that they pick up the book, Pivot for Success, or last words that you want to share with our audience?
Well, I think that it's important to understand that your path in life, your ideal path in life, it really is a vortex of what you're passionate about, what your purpose is, and what your possibilities are. And you're in the center of that. And then when you define your priorities, you envision what your prosperity is, and then you understand that all of those things mixed together are going to be putting you in the center, and that's when you're going to hit the target of where you want to be.
I love that.
That's when the target, you hit the hot spot. And so really that's why people, I believe, take the time to step back out of your busyness. Step back out of your busyness and take the time to really look at those 10 pivot points. They are universal. They never go out of style. I still use them because the teacher sometimes is a person who needs to learn. I dust them off for myself all the time because your life evolves. They evolve with you, and you can really look at them and say, okay, what is working for me now? And see where that vortex is for yourself.
I love that. That is what's working now.
What's working now.
And in my test or litmus test of things, it's like, if I don't love it, I don't do it.
Right.
It's kind of like sometimes you go into a dressing room and you're trying on some clothes, right? And it's like, do you like it or do you love it? If you just kind of like it, leave it there. If you love it, take it with you. So it's like the same thing. What do you love? What are you passionate about? Do that, pursue that. That is the path of least resistance. If you love it, you're gonna push through some things that may not be comfortable, but you love it, so you're going to keep doing it. And so that's one of the things, a pivot for success. And I just love that it's coming out in the spring by Wiley. That was just also an applause right there, because that's a big publisher for them to invest in you. And that's a trailblazer thing. I want to just say this, that Wiley does not have that many African-American authors. So that's, again, another trailblazing thing that you're doing. So you're opening the door up by you doing that, opening the door up for other African-American authors to come through and come behind you as well. And that is totally, totally my purpose. It's like my purpose is to inspire others to see what they can do. And you're doing that. You're doing that. So I just want to say, Amy, thank you. So for more information, I want people to see the show notes when we're going to post those, but also make sure that they go to amyshilliard.com. You want to get in touch with her. She's available to speak. If you want to host a virtual book club party or something like that, that might be cool to do as well. So, I'll be in touch with you about that, because I love books, and this sounds like it's the right timing for that. So thank you so much, Pam, for having me. All right. Thank you. All right. Talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast, brought to you by PamPerryPR.com, where you'll get insider tips on how to build your platform, pitch the media, and promote yourself with confidence. Head over to PamPerryPR.com and get the exclusive video training on the 7 must-have marketing materials you need before you pitch, in order to be considered in media places or superstar stages. PamPerryPR.com, where you help you shine like a superstar.